Do you have a favorite holiday cookie memory or recipe?
Oh man, I think I have a lot of both. Now that I have a daughter, we do a lot of cookie decorating in the house. A lot of like straight up sugar cookies. But one of my favorite holiday cookies that I make is a white chocolate ginger snap, and it has tiny little pieces of candied ginger on there. And so what we do is we bake the cookies, and then my daughter squirts my daughter squirts the white chocolate all over the cookies, and then she sprinkles, like, I prep all the ginger, and then she kind of sprinkles it on top, and it's not like a traditional sugar cookie with like royal icing. It's like an eaten cookie, and she absolutely loves it. She likes sprinkling things. She likes to like sprinkle salt. Sometimes she sprinkles a little too much. The other day we were making Cheetos, and she was like sprinkling the. So you use rice noodles, uncooked rice noodles, and she was like sprinkling them into the deep fryer, and I was like holding her up, and my wife came in the kitchen. She's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Nothing. We're just frying noodles." She likes to sprinkle a lot, so yeah, it's a fun cookie.
So, have your holiday baking traditions changed any since you've become a dad?
Yeah, now my daughter's in school, and so every once in a while my wife will come home and be like, "Hey, I signed you up for the cookies for, Valentine's Day or the holidays or Thanksgiving or like whatever the holiday that they're celebrating at school." My wife will sign me up to handle the cookie portion of it, and it's actually really nice. Like I enjoy doing it because it's like it's kind of cool because like I'll like make a bunch of nice cookies, and there's like 12 kids in her class, but I got to make like 40 cookies because like all the other teachers want some, because like, oh, Josephine's dad's like that guy, so it's, there's a lot more cookie decorating happening in my house now that I have a daughter.
And are you involving her in all of the cookie decorating that you're doing?
I mean, like a lot of like I do, but I tend to well, Josephine tends to really sort of enjoy being in the kitchen while I'm doing stuff. She doesn't like to cook as much as I want her to like to cook yet. I feel like she will, but she's more of like, I'm gonna watch Daddy make cookies and then I'm gonna eat some.
Uh, so, why do you think the holidays and traditions like baking and cookie decorating have become so intertwined over the years?
I think that, the holidays is when everybody kind of gets back together. Like people come from far and wide, everybody sort of gathers, and that's when families see all the people that have sort of gone all over the place. And one of the ways that just we as families kind of like know who we are is through the food that we make. I remember, going to my grandmother's and going to my great grandmother's, and like the food was always so important. Like this was who we are. This was our culture. This was our religion. This was, our ancestry. And so I think that what happens is because at the holidays, everybody gathers and we're all sort of having all that food, and all the older adults like are like, hey, this is a family recipe. You need to know how to do this because eventually you're going to have to teach your kids how to do it. Like eventually I need to teach Josephine how to make my great grandmother's apple strudel, right? And it's a big job, and it's, you got to stretch the dough and you make the filling, and baking it is really, you got to baste it with butter, and then you got to slice it when it's really hot. There's a whole thing to it, but it's part of who we are. It's part of my family. And so I think the reason why those things sort of get tied up, because that's when we're all together, right? That's when the kids are with the older adults and they're like, all right, youngin, like, let me teach you how to do this because this is where you come from.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. So, I haven't heard, but this reporter has heard that there's an infamous Duff Goldman cookie plate. What is the secret to creating a great cookie plate?
I don't think my cookie plate is infamous. I think my cookie plate is amazing. So, as you can imagine, I like people, I will get invited to like do, dinners and like big functions, food festivals and things like that. And one of the things I've realized is that when I go to some other kitchen in some other state where I don't know the ingredients, I don't know the kitchen, I don't know the equipment, when you're trying to make like really beautiful plated desserts, it can get really difficult. It's just hard, right? Pastry can be really, really tough. When you're making mousses and sauces and baking things, it can get really sort of crazy. And I decided, you know what? I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to do plated desserts anymore when I'm at like a big crazy function like that. It's just, there's so many things that can go wrong. So I decided that if anybody invites me to any of those dinners, I'm going to make a cookie plate. One, it's unexpected. Most people think they're going to get some sort of beautiful plated dessert, right? And when you get a cookie plate, at first it's like, huh, cookies. Okay, I guess we're having cookies. Then, and this happens every single time I do it, people will take a bite of the cookie and they're like, oh, these are cookies, right? So my my cookie plates, I tend to do like 4 or 5 different kinds of cookies with lots of different sort of characteristics. Some of the cookies might be really thick. Some of them are going to be thin and crispy. I like lots of different textures. I like lots of different flavors. Some of them will have chocolate. Some of them will have nuts. Some of them might have some jam or some jelly. So I try to do like a really good mix of flavors, but more importantly, textures, because that's the thing that really makes a good cookie great. The texture is really informed by a couple things. One, how you mix the dough, right? Your butter can't get too warm, can't get too cold. You got to mix your butter, you got to mix your dough right, and you got to make sure you don't overmix it, because then cookies start to get tough. And I don't know of a single cookie that's supposed to be tough, right? So you really got to make sure that you're not overmixing your cookies. The other thing is the actual baking of the cookies. When you think about it, a cookie will bake for 12 minutes, 15 minutes, right? Not a long time. If the recipe says like, okay, bake this for 12 minutes, you bake it for 12 minutes and you pull it out of the oven and then you put it, somewhere to cool, right? The tray that they're sitting on is still really hot, right? It's going to be hot for like another 90 seconds. 90 seconds does not sound like a lot of time, but if your entire baking time is 12 minutes, 90 seconds is a big percentage of that. So you have to really start to understand when to take your cookies out. You have to develop the confidence to take your cookies out of the oven before they're finished, knowing that they're going to finish on the cookie sheet. Or second you think your cookies are done, you pull them out and you get them right off that cookie sheet immediately. And that's one of the things that makes a cookie, you bite into it, you're like, this tastes like a grandma made it, right? My goal is to bake cookies that seem like somebody's grandma made that thing.
Terrific.
Sorry, I love cookies.
No, so you're back on Holiday Baking Championship. Why do you think Food Network baking competition shows resonate so well with fans?
I've thought a lot about this. Like, why is it that, people are really drawn to these shows? And I think there's a couple things. Is with all the baking championships, we try to take the time to really show people what's happening. It's not just about the drama of like who's going to win, who's going to lose, who's going to drop all their stuff on the floor, who's going to freak out, who's going to triumph. But it's also about the things that they're making. I get really excited about cakes and pies and cookies and stuff. I love that stuff. And I think that not only getting to watch people do the thing that they do, which is fascinating, right? Watching anybody who's good at what they do it, it really draws you in. People like to watch chefs cook food because it's cool to see people do the thing that they're good at. It's the same thing with figure skaters. It's the same thing with somebody throwing a pot. If you're flipping through Instagram, you're like, oh, somebody's building this thing out of wood. You stop and you look at it because it's fascinating to see people sort of manipulate stuff and turn it into something else. The same exact thing is true with baking. So I think people are really drawn to that. They're really drawn to sort of seeing people that are good at what they do it. But then they also get the commentary, right? I bite into a brownie and my job is to describe what I'm tasting So you at home can like, yeah, it's gooey in the middle. Ooh, it's a little crispy on the edges. Ooh, there's some like melted chocolate in there. Oh, there's like a little thing. They got a nice little salt or ooh, a little bite of caramel or whatever it is. My job is to kind of convey that to people. And so not only are they getting like the instruction and getting to see the people like, okay, this is how I mix the dough, this is how I bake the whatever I'm baking, but then they get somebody biting into it and really kind of drawing them in and being able to sort of describe the experience so they feel like they're there.